how much you put into the game, how much work ethic are you gonna put into it every single day, day in and day out. I've never cheated the process on wanting to be great in this game. I knew I had a God-given ability, but that only takes you so far if you don't use that ability and start putting in work every single day.
LeBron James has built his entire legacy on the idea of respecting the game and competing at the highest level every night. So when moments from a tough fourth quarter get scrutinized, it naturally sparks strong reactions from fans and analysts. When commentators break down late-game possessions or effort plays, especially in close losses like the one against the Orlando Magic, the conversation quickly shifts to a bigger question about where he is in his career. At this stage, it's less about whether LeBron can still produce, because he clearly can, and more about how his role fits within a team that includes younger stars like Luka Doncic. Some see a player still competing at a high level, adapting his game while chasing wins. Others see someone balancing legacy, records, and longevity. The reality is probably somewhere in between, which is why the debate keeps getting louder every time the Lakers are in a high-pressure situation.
At what point are you going to start showing his age?
Like 4 years ago.
Can you show the video of LeBron again, man?
Don't they look like that meme where they put the cigarette in his mouth?
That's Miami Bron. He got the thin neck.
Some would call the Ozempic neck.
At some point, you're going to start the season and then not play for 20 games and come back. You better not come out there dunking it. I don't want to see no dunks.
So when people say, is he declining? We was in a league where when he jumped, his chin was over the rim.
Yeah, we know he declined.
Over the rim. Now, you see this. It looked good for them because they don't remember the guy who was sitting here looking at the rim. Now we see him on a fast break. We can see, yeah, he's slow, right? He used to be 110 speed out of 100. Now he probably, 91, 92? That was that LeBron. This LeBron, he does look old.
There's definitely a more blunt version of this conversation that some analysts are starting to lean into, and Ric Bucher went there directly. Speaking on Fox Sports, he suggested that LeBron James has, at times, remained in games with an eye on hitting statistical milestones, to the point where it's becoming noticeable to viewers. That kind of criticism hits harder because it challenges not just performance, but intent, something that's always going to spark debate when it comes to a player with LeBron's legacy. At the same time, this is where opinions really split. Some fans see a veteran maximizing every minute on the floor while still producing at a high level, especially this late in his career. Others interpret those same moments as prioritizing records alongside winning. When voices on major platforms start saying it openly, though, it shows the conversation around LeBron is shifting from pure praise to a more complicated evaluation of how his role fits on a team trying to compete right now.
LeBron James has stayed in games to achieve some sort of statistical mark so routinely now that we're almost numb to it. The latest being the oldest player to ever achieve a triple-double. Can't remember who they were playing. I just know that the game was out of hand. There was no reason for him to be on the floor. I believe Austin Reeves ended up grabbing 2 rebounds that LeBron wanted so that he could complete the triple-double and get off the floor.
The game against the Dallas Mavericks on February 13th, 2026 became a major talking point because LeBron James finished with 28 points, 12 assists, and 10 rebounds, making him the oldest player in NBA history to record a triple-double. While the achievement was widely celebrated, analysts like Ric Bucher used it to highlight a broader concern, describing moments like this as routine and suggesting a possible pattern where late-game situations align with personal milestones. That perspective sparked debate, especially around plays involving teammates like Austin Reeves, with some viewing it as normal game flow and others questioning whether individual stats are playing a larger role in certain moments.
We are set for action here on Prime. LaRavia to James, 3-on-1 developing. Board. 5-on-4, Williams slow to get up. James is going to hoist. And hit a 3! He can do a whole lot with that in terms of creativity. Corner, Hachimura, looking.
How good can your zone be adapting to what each other team's trying to do to you?
Shake and bake. James flings it up. It's good, and a foul. He turns it over. James, the locomotive to the rim.
Unfortunately tonight.
In transition, LeBron James fighting through waves of defenders, and he gets the roll. Hayes clears it. LeBron,
oh my. The same team.
Yeah, same
It's
team.
true. I don't want to create any divides between studio and booth.
The moment quickly became another headline for LeBron James, a historic triple-double against the Dallas Mavericks that added to his already unmatched resume. But what made it controversial was how it happened. Ric Bucher pointed out that the game was essentially decided, raising the question of why LeBron was still on the floor in the first place. During that stretch, there were sequences where Austin Reeves appeared to secure rebounds in situations where LeBron was also in position, which some interpreted as disrupting the chase for the final stat needed to complete the triple-double. Whether viewed as normal gameplay or something more intentional, that sequence became a focal point in the larger debate about late-game decisions and individual milestones.
The guy staying around at age 41 just to get an extra rebound, just to say in the history books, when everybody forgets how it was done, that he was the oldest guy to get a triple-double, that is stat chasing. That is undermining the statistical achievement. And with LeBron, he loves to say that he's never cheated the game. And it seems like not only with LeBron, but a lot of people these days, every declaration is actually a confession.
The criticism centers on a very specific perception, that in a decided game against the Dallas Mavericks, LeBron James remained on the floor with a chance to secure a triple-double, which some, like Ric Bucher, argued had more to do with the milestone than the outcome. In that context, moments involving rebounds around Austin Reeves became a focal point for interpretation, with critics suggesting it looked like stat chasing. While others would argue those plays can still fall within normal game flow, what makes the conversation louder is the timing. The Los Angeles Lakers are in a strong position, winning games and firmly in the playoff picture. So the expectation from some analysts is that late-season decisions should prioritize rest, efficiency, and post-season readiness over individual milestones. That's where Butcher's broader point lands, not as a definitive accusation, but as a challenge to how those moments are perceived when they repeat often enough to raise questions about intent. At the same time, it's worth remembering that players chasing milestones late in games isn't unique in NBA history, especially for stars with long careers. The real debate here is less about a single rebound and more about how fans interpret priorities, whether they see a veteran still competing at a high level or someone balancing legacy achievements alongside a legitimate push for another championship. The situation with the Los Angeles Lakers really comes down to roles and priorities at this stage of the season. Austin Reeves is having a breakout year, averaging around 23.9 points, 4.8 rebounds, and 5.5 assists, while Luka Doncic is clearly the centerpiece with nearly 33 points, 7.9 rebounds, and 8.5 assists per game, making it obvious the team is built around him. In contrast, LeBron James is putting up about 21.4 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 7 assists, solid numbers, especially at 41, but more in line with a complementary role. That shift is what fuels the debate, because when a team has already identified its future, expectations change around how a veteran manages minutes, late-game decisions, and whether the focus is fully on winning or still partially on personal milestones. When you look at the bigger picture, the debate around LeBron James isn't just about one rebound or one game, it's about how his legacy is being built in real time. The records are undeniable: all-time scoring leader, over 50,000 combined points, passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and ranking among the leaders in triple-doubles. A lot of that comes from sustained greatness over 2 decades, which is rare and impressive. But as some critics point out, longevity can also shape how those records are perceived, especially if decisions about minutes, usage, or staying in games seem connected to milestones. That's where the conversation gets complicated. On one hand, LeBron is still producing at a high level deep into his career, which historically almost no one has done. On the other, when moments in games appear to align with chasing specific achievements, it invites more scrutiny about priorities, particularly on a team like the Los Angeles Lakers that is competing for playoff positioning. The situation is further amplified by everything surrounding Bronny James and the expectations that come with that spotlight. When all of these factors combine, team success, individual milestones, and family legacy, it creates a narrative where every action gets analyzed more intensely, and where the line between competing and legacy building becomes a constant topic of debate. The situation you're describing really comes down to perception versus intent around LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers. The selection of Bronny James brought immediate accusations of nepotism, and whether fair or not, that narrative stuck because of LeBron's influence and the visibility of the move. Figures like Rich Paul stepping in publicly to emphasize respect for Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka is standard damage control in high-profile sports situations, especially when internal decisions start affecting public trust. Where the debate intensifies is in how people interpret patterns. Critics see a through line, career decisions, roster influence, milestone moments, as being shaped around personal legacy. Supporters see a player maximizing his career while still competing at an elite level. Both can exist at the same time, which is why the conversation doesn't go away. As for JJ Redick, his position naturally requires balance. Coaches rarely challenge superstar players publicly, especially ones with LeBron's stature and history, because maintaining locker room stability is part of the job. So when he frames LeBron's role as selfless and focused on helping teammates like Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves succeed, that's as much about managing dynamics as it is about describing reality. In the end, the credibility problem you're pointing to really depends on how much weight someone gives to those patterns versus the results. That tension between legacy building and winning is what's driving almost every conversation around LeBron at this stage of his career. You're laying out a compelling argument. The distinction between selfless behavior and calculated legacy management is stark when you look at the actions. Staying in a blowout to chase a triple-double, orchestrating your son's draft selection, and having agents frame those moves publicly as team first are not the hallmarks of purely selfless leadership. They are strategic decisions made with legacy in mind. Ric Bucher calling attention to the pattern isn't disrespectful. It's simply reading the tape, the context, and the circumstances honestly. LeBron James's career is historic, no question, but even legends can, and should, face scrutiny when their choices prioritize personal milestones over team outcomes. The receipts are there, and the conversation is overdue. Greatness does not grant immunity from accountability. This is the moment to evaluate honestly whether the legacy narrative aligns with the actions on and off the court.